very few people start the should I have a podcast thinking process with what's a podcast going to do for my business. So like a business podcast is a really different creature than one that's for passion, or even one that exists like as a product in and of itself that is going to be a business on its own. But to get your podcast heard, maybe that's not actually the most important thing. I find for a lot of podcasts, fame and fortune and lots of downloads, least important possible metric of all the metrics that you could be looking at. And so many people get into podcasting because it is the thing that everyone is doing right now. And it is easy to create, and it's great repurposable content, but it doesn't start with, is my goal business development? Is it getting more sales? Is my goal engaging with an audience that I already have? Is my goal creating content that I can reuse? So the kind of best way to approach that, how to get found issue, is going to be, why am I podcasting in the first place? Is getting found super important? Or do I only need to connect with the guest that I'm talking to, or the audience that I already have? So I think, once you settle on that, you're going to have a much easier time, getting found. And to your point, the best way to get traffic from podcasting is not to host your own, it's to be a guest on someone else's. So if you want traffic, if you want attention, go be on other people's shows, use their audiences. They've already built them. Yours is, when you have people on your show, obviously you want downloads, you want to be connecting with people, impacting them. But it's much harder to grow a new audience than to borrow one that already exists. And we can get into some like podcast promotion strategies if you like, but I don't know if that was the heart of your question.
No, these are all good. I'm just listening. I'm just soaking it up, because some of the things I've heard about and some of the things I've forgotten. And then some of the things I'm like, oh, that's really good.
So the kind of podcast we're talking about, and we kind of work with three main archetypes of podcast type in my company, in my business. And the one we're talking about now is a thought leadership podcast, where, you are making stands, you're being controversial, you are becoming an authority, you're taking an authoritative stance in your niche. Well, the first thing you've got to do with that is think about the content that you're putting out, because if you want to be making waves and creating conversations and becoming a source of news and information in your industry, you can't spend all your time talking to guests who are at or below your professional level. You've got to either be doing solo episodes, or you've got to be talking to people who are kind of, at your professional level, or a couple of clicks above if you can manage it. And that, is challenging. Hopefully at that point, you're getting a little name recognition from the people that you're talking to, or that you have it for yourself. But if you want people to be finding it, you still have to go be a guest on other shows, because then not only are you the expert, you're the expert who is also the host of ABC podcast, which is a good way. You can always, it's easier to get current listeners to add another show to their roster than to get someone totally new being involved. Other kinds of events, live streaming is really good for getting new listeners, to kind of demonstrate what it's going to be like to listen to you every week. Speaking at events, similarly, that can be local, can be big, can be keynote, can be digital. But basically anything that you would do to promote a business, you can do to promote a podcast, only more, because you have to do it for every single episode and not just for the channel as a whole. The real key to podcast promotion is getting lucky. And I'm sorry to have to say it, but it is partly just being in the right place, getting picked up by the right algorithm at the right time, making it available on as many platforms as possible. So that's not just the podcatchers, it's YouTube, it's your blog, it's in writing, it's everywhere someone might be consuming content. And then just spending a lot of time telling people about it, or hiring people to spend a lot of time telling people about it. One of my favorite strategies is a direct one-to-one email promotion technique. And I have to apologize every time I recommend it, because it sucks. But for every episode, you think, okay, who's going to be interested in the topic? Who's going to be interested in the guest? And write them directly and say, hey, I just recorded this interview. I think it's going to be really interesting for your audience. Here's a link.
Times people choose to listen, they really do listen.
Yeah.
They just don't have it on the background. They're like mowing the lawn and listen to this, but yet they're listening. And so, yeah, we get a lot of great response, and I feel like, this is great. And I want more, just FYI, anybody can email me anytime. I'm always, just like you, we want the feedback. We want people to talk to us and to get questions, because I think the people who get into podcasting, who just enjoy it, or people like you behind the scenes, it's the idea of helping others. Is that I know that this to be true. This is a universal truth for me. And I know that this works, or I'm talking to people that it's working, and it's working right now. Like our theme is, so now what? Right. Mm-hmm. So I have people like you on. So now what? Well, let's consider a podcast, or let's figure out what we're doing with this podcast that we've had. And it was fun, but maybe we can make it more,
Absolutely. And I've got to actually just on that. So now what? And here's one of the big hesitations I find a lot of people have before starting a podcast, and this is assuming, they've done a bit of an evaluation and said, okay, yes, it could be a good business choice. There's a strategic reason to do this. Because when you start podcasting, it's a big commitment because it's a weekly or biweekly thing. You just keep doing it forever and forever and forever and forever. And that's hugely intimidating. So start with a season. Don't commit to starting a whole podcast that's going to last forever and be a weekly show that's going to go on for years and years. Try a season, 12, 13 episodes.